No matter how the cachet of the WNBA elevates, remember, it could have been even better. You messed it up.
Imagine being the driving force behind millions in revenue for your organization, your name filling seats, your talent boosting viewership, and yet your annual salary barely scratches $76,000. Now, add workplace violence to the mix. Not just verbal hostility, but actual physical aggression from colleagues, with zero intervention from your employer. That's not a storyline. That's the real-life situation WNBA star Caitlin Clark is facing. Despite being a marquee player who has reshaped the league's visibility, Clark has become the center of controversy, targeted during games, brushed off by the U.S. Olympic Committee, and consistently underpaid. The spotlight hasn't protected her. If anything, it's made her more vulnerable. But now, there's a major twist. A game-changing offer from an overseas team has entered the picture, and it's not just a career pivot. It's an escape route with a hint of vengeance. If she takes it, it could shake the very foundation of the WNBA, exposing the league's failure to safeguard its most valuable talent.
She will do her best. I know she's talented, but she's not strong enough and she doesn't have enough experience right now to compete at...
Caitlin Clark's entrance into the WNBA wasn't just a headline, it was an economic shockwave that could be tracked in real time. Dubbed the Caitlin Clark effect, that label doesn't even begin to capture the scale of what happened. If anything, calling it that undersells the magnitude of her impact. Practically overnight, the entire landscape of the league changed. The Indiana Fever, long stuck in the shadows, struggling in both wins and ticket sales, suddenly became the most in-demand franchise in the country. Their games turned into instant sellouts, with fans scrambling for seats minutes after tickets dropped. The ripple effect didn't stop there. Opposing teams had no choice but to upgrade venues, shifting games from modest, half-empty arenas to full-sized NBA stadiums like Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. Just to keep up with the surge in attendance. Just to handle the tidal wave of people showing up, not for the teams, not even for the league, but to witness her.
Nonsense about things that Caitlin was doing wrong when, in my personal opinion, she was doing nothing but going out there and playing great basketball every night and ignoring the hate that was coming to her from all sides, not only from...
The data was nothing short of jaw-dropping. Television ratings on major networks like ESPN and ABC skyrocketed, triple-digit increases across the board. Her very first game wasn't just popular, it became the most-watched WNBA broadcast in over 20 years. Then came the draft. Traditionally a niche event catering to die-hard fans, this year's coverage exploded, drawing an unprecedented 2.45 million viewers, quadrupling the previous record. And Clark's number 22 jersey? It didn't just top WNBA charts. It became the best-selling jersey of any athlete, across all sports, on draft night. Caitlin Clark didn't just show up, she supercharged the entire league. She brought attention, money, and momentum to a brand that had long struggled to break into the mainstream. For the first time in years, the WNBA wasn't fighting for relevance, it had it, in the palm of its hand. But instead of embracing that momentum, parts of the league seemed almost hostile. Rather than celebrating her arrival, some insiders acted like they were laying traps. A red carpet wasn't rolled out, it was practically yanked away.
NBA became. Even when Jordan was ascending and the league clearly saw that that was the dude and Nike was marketing the living hell out of Michael Jordan. I want to be like Mike. It was still burning that.
From the moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto a WNBA court, it was obvious, this wasn't going to be a warm welcome. The physicality she faced wasn't just rookie initiation. It crossed the line into something more targeted, more personal, and frankly, more dangerous. She wasn't just bumped or jostled. She was hip-checked mid-play, shouldered with intent, and repeatedly slammed to the floor with a level of force that felt less like competition and more like retaliation. It wasn't rough basketball, it looked like an effort to intimidate, maybe even injure. The most notorious incident became instant replay material across every sports network in the country. During a game against the Chicago Sky, guard Chendi Carter blindsided Clark with a violent body check far from the ball, completely unnecessary and unmistakably deliberate. It was a hit that belonged on a football field, not a basketball court. And how did the league respond? With a minimal fine and no suspension. A wrist slap. That mild punishment didn't deter, it signaled. To many fans and analysts, it looked like the league had essentially condoned the behavior, sending a dangerous message, targeting Caitlin Clark might come with more reward than consequence.
Making a basketball argument.
We're not saying
No, Andrea, I'm not going to let you do that.
Go ahead,
Andrea, I'm not going to let you make it seem like Caitlin Clark was averaging 5 points a game. At the time, she was still averaging 16 points a game, which was more than a lot of other guards that made the team. So don't do that. Don't make it seem like she was averaging 5 points and this was like a handout.
No, it wasn't a handout.
Look at her numbers.
Shannon,
comparable to the other guards that were on the team. That's all.
Some of the league's veteran players, many of whom had publicly questioned the media frenzy surrounding Clark, appeared to take matters into their own hands. And on the court, their intent was unmistakable. This wasn't just tough defense, it was a deliberate, physical campaign to humble the league's newest star. They weren't simply trying to shut her down on the scoreboard. They were sending a message: you may have the spotlight, but we still run this league. It was an odd and self-sabotaging display, one that played out in front of packed arenas and millions of new fans tuning in, many for the first time. As the hits kept coming, the silence from the league office became deafening. Despite the revenue, the ratings, the revitalization she brought, the WNBA looked either unwilling or unable to step in and protect its most bankable player. But the physical toll was just one part of the storm. What came next would strike an even deeper blow, not with elbows or cheap shots, but with a public decision that felt far more personal. And it would unfold under the bright lights of a national stage.
Women's basketball right now, It all started from the national championship game, and I've been dealing with this for 2 years now. And understanding, negative things have probably been said about me, but honestly, I'll take that because look where women's basketball is. People are talking about women's basketball, but you never would think that we'd be talking about women's basketball. I'll look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, the reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person, it's because of me.
The biggest blow came in early June, and it hit harder than any foul on the court. When the roster for the U.S. Olympic women's basketball team was revealed, one name was conspicuously missing: Caitlin Clark. The omission wasn't just surprising. It sent a shockwave through the entire sports world. This was the most talked about athlete in America. A player whose presence alone had reignited national interest in women's basketball. She wasn't just drawing headlines, she was driving ratings, selling tickets, and pulling millions into a sport that had long struggled to reach mainstream audiences. And yet, somehow, she wasn't deemed worthy of representing Team USA in Paris? The selection committee offered explanations, pointing to her supposed lack of international experience. But those justifications rang hollow to fans, analysts, and even fellow athletes. For many, it didn't feel like a professional decision, it felt like a calculated move. It looked, unmistakably, like the establishment pushing back. A message from the old guard, reminding Clark, and the millions rallying behind her, that popularity doesn't guarantee acceptance. That no matter how many records she breaks, the power structure still decides who gets a seat at the table.
Fact that she was getting all of that, yet all of these eyeballs were coming to the league because of her. They were turning, the Indiana Fever was turning away games.
The response was swift and overwhelming. The moment the Olympic roster dropped, outrage poured in from every corner. Sports commentators sounded off. Casual viewers voiced disbelief. Even people who had never followed the WNBA were suddenly paying attention, and they were furious. To Caitlin Clark supporters, the snub confirmed what many had long suspected, that the powers at the top resented her meteoric rise. That her popularity, rather than being celebrated, was seen as a threat to the established order. This wasn't just a missed chance to elevate Team USA, it was a statement. Loud, public, and personal. It told Clark, in no uncertain terms, that no matter how much she had done to grow the game, she was still viewed as an outsider. Someone the gatekeepers weren't ready, or willing, to fully accept. For many fans, it felt less like a selection decision and more like a warning shot from the inner circle. But while the public slight was painful enough, the real insult came behind the scenes. A glance at her paycheck revealed a deeper problem. The league was not just undervaluing her in spirit, they were underpaying her in reality.
Viewership, which is up 400% to 40%. Between ticket sales, which is up 93% to 16%. Between regular game viewership, which is up 180% to 20%. What Caitlin Clark has done is grown the WNBA exponentially. She did in 5 weeks what would have taken 5 years. And as it pertains to draft viewership, she did in 5.
The most glaring and indefensible chapter in Caitlin Clark's story is the money, cold, hard, and painfully insufficient. Clark is a powerhouse, generating tens of millions for the WNBA and its teams every season. She drives national TV schedules, fills arenas bursting at the seams, and sends merchandise sales through the roof. Yet her official rookie salary? A jaw-dropping $76,535. To put that figure in perspective, it's less than many mid-level office jobs, and it's a fraction of the NBA's rookie minimum, which tops $1 million. Meanwhile, Clark's off-court earnings tell a very different story. Endorsement deals with household names like Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm are estimated to bring in over $3 million this year alone. She earns more from a single commercial than from a grueling, full WNBA season, complete with cross-country flights and relentless physical punishment night after night. This glaring financial imbalance exposes the WNBA's core problem, its outdated pay structure, shackled by a restrictive collective bargaining agreement that fails to reflect the modern athlete's market value or branding power. Caitlin Clark is a global superstar trapped inside a league still operating under a pay scale from a bygone era. And here lies the undeniable motivation behind her considering a move abroad. The whispers from Europe, once quiet, have grown into an urgent call. Rumors swirl of a jaw-dropping contract offer from a top EuroLeague team, an offer not merely about a higher paycheck, but a total shift in respect and status. European women's basketball leagues have long been known for paying star players far more than the WNBA, often reaching 6 or even 7 figures per season. But this rumored deal for Clark? It's reportedly on an entirely different level, set to make her the highest-paid female basketball player in the world by a staggering margin. Beyond the money, this is about being valued. In Europe, Caitlin wouldn't be a scrutinized rookie or a target. She would be the centerpiece of the franchise, the heartbeat of the league's marketing machine. She'd play fewer games, allowing for proper rest and recovery, and she'd be treated as the icon she is, not a commodity. Imagine passionate crowds, chanting and cheering, flares waving in the air, a genuine fan base that sees her not as an outsider, but as a conquering hero. For Clark, this is more than an offer, it's an escape from hostile courts, institutional disrespect, and a league that profits from her fame while refusing to compensate her fairly. If she takes that leap and leaves the WNBA, the fallout would be catastrophic. TV ratings on networks like ESPN and ABC, already riding record highs thanks to her, would plummet overnight. Sponsorship deals, many linked directly to Clark's star power, could evaporate. Ticket sales would nosedive, forcing teams back into near-empty arenas. The new fans she brought, the families, the students, the curious sports watchers, would disappear without a reason to tune in. The WNBA's brief moment in the mainstream spotlight would vanish, plunging the league back into obscurity. It would be a devastating, self-inflicted wound. A case study in how to mishandle a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But there's another possibility. What if Clark doesn't flee? What if she ignites a revolution right here at home? A bold new idea is gaining traction, one that could turn the WNBA's world upside down. Sports commentator Jason Whitlock has openly called for Clark to partner with investors to launch a brand new league in the US, one that pays players what they're truly worth. This wouldn't be just another off-season league. It would be a player-run powerhouse, built for and by the stars who feel undervalued and underpaid. Clark wouldn't be an employee, she'd be a co-founder, the face of a rebellion that challenges the very existence of the WNBA. Such a league could offer superstar salaries that match modern market realities, keeping top talent stateside and ending the reliance on overseas contracts. It could attract other disillusioned players, sparking fierce competition and possibly eclipsing the WNBA in both pay and popularity. It would be a game-changing, checkmate move, a declaration of independence that could forever alter the landscape of women's sports. Today, the WNBA stands at a dangerous crossroads. They were handed a generational talent, a cultural icon, a star who opened the door to untold possibilities. Instead of rolling out the red carpet, the league and some veterans chose to target, humiliate, and undervalue her. They failed to recognize that her rise wasn't a threat, it was an opportunity to elevate the entire sport. Now, they must face the consequences of their short-sighted jealousy and resistance to change. Whether Clark chooses to chase glory in Europe or spearhead a new revolution at home, one thing is certain, her days as a loyal soldier for an ungrateful league are over. The final question remains, will this be remembered as the moment the WNBA sealed its own fate? Or the moment a true queen, tired of waiting to be crowned, finally claimed her throne on the global stage?